Hey there, welcome to Pickled Parables. This podcast is presented by Parable Ministries as a Bible teaching resource. Thank you for joining us. Pickled Parables is a podcast about taking in and living out the Bible. Here we will study, contemplate, and testify to the Bible's incredible teachings and how it leads us to live better lives. To stay up to date with all things Parable, follow us on Instagram at parable_ministries and visit our website at parableministries.com. We hope today's message finds you well.
Hey everyone, welcome to Pickled Parables. My name is Jesse, and I'm part of a teaching team that's going through 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John. Today I'm presenting the last part of this series as we look through the letter of 3rd John. Hunter Hoover, my friend and colleague, will close this series with a wrap-up episode that looks back and summarizes these 3 letters. So if you're more of an overview type person, that's going to be an episode you'll want to check out. Without further ado, let's set the stage for our study today. After Jesus ascended to heaven and the Holy Spirit rushed down to indwell his people, the responsibility of leadership fell onto the shoulders of 12 men. There had been 12 dedicated followers of Jesus during his earthly ministry. But one of these followers betrayed him and, becoming racked with guilt, then sadly took his own life. The remaining 11 disciples chose a replacement for this betrayer and brought the official number back up to 12. These 12 became referred to as apostles, which comes from the Greek apostolos, meaning someone sent off with a message. Emissary would be an appropriate translation. These apostles were commissioned by Jesus Christ to carry out a message of good news. Euangelion in Greek, or in Old English, the gospel. These sent out ones, the apostles, took this responsibility very seriously. We have records of them shaping church roles, such as the deacon, who were servant ministers that specialized in meeting physical, practical needs for members in the congregation. We have accounts of important meetings, such as the Jerusalem Council in the book of Acts, where they determined that Gentiles should not be held to the standard of Jewish law. The early church was led and stewarded by these recognized apostles. In fact, most of the epistles in our New Testament are letters that had been written by these apostles. Having started in Jerusalem, the apostles were able to lead Jesus' followers with direct contact. However, as the good news spread, and more people began to respond to it, the degree of their authority began to thin over the long distances. People who had never met the apostles were beginning to form communities around the proclamation of the gospel. But without the apostles present, little reverence was cultivated for them, and teachings could not be monitored. This is a prominent reason why we have so many letters from the apostles being sent to church communities. The messenger who delivered the letter represented the apostles as they read aloud their words. With travel being much more difficult at this time than it is now, the apostles could only visit so many places a few times. Simply because of the distance, disrespect and heretical teachings became a challenge for the apostles to deal with. It became an ancient version of whack-a-mole. New heretical teachings could sweep through a community of believers where a charismatic leader would espouse these new teachings, thus leaving the apostles scrambling to attempt correction. The emphasis for orthodoxy, the observance of right teaching, came out of the abundance of heresy. As we've seen throughout our series of 1st, 2nd, and now 3rd John, the Apostle John has been crafting letter after letter after letter, seeking to right the ship within a beleaguered community, or potentially several communities in an area. This 3rd letter is written to an individual named Gaius. Let's open this letter and read it together. This letter is from John the Elder. I am writing to Gaius, my dear friend, whom I love in the truth. My dear friend, I hope all is well with you, and that you are as healthy in body as you are strong in the spirit. Some of the traveling teachers recently returned and made me very happy by telling me about your faithfulness and that you are living according to the truth. I could have no greater joy than to hear that my children are following the truth. The first point of interest is this mention of traveling teachers. It appears that teachers would travel from place to place, staying with a community of believers for a time and teaching them, then moving on to a new place, continuing this method to reach as many people as they could. Again, because travel was much more difficult at this time than it is now, this would have been a big encouragement for the secluded Christian community to have a teacher come visit them and personally instruct them in the history of their belief. In the 1700s and 1800s, this was famously practiced by a group of traveling pastors here in the USA. They were called circuit riders because they would develop a travel route and stop to visit churches along their way. This has been a method of ministry for many, many years, and we see it first mentioned here in 3 John, if you don't count Paul's missionary trips. The next interesting detail is John's title of endearment for Gaius. I'll read what he wrote again. They made me very happy by telling me about your faithfulness and that you are living according to the truth. I could have no greater joy than to hear that my children are following the truth. By calling Gaius his child, it seems to infer that John has some deep relationship with him. Maybe John helped lead Gaius to confess Christ as Lord, and now sees himself as Gaius's spiritual father, wanting the best for him, caring deeply about his development within the faith, and mentoring in an elderly, fatherly way. It's not explicit, but it's a reasonable assumption. Back to the letter. My dear friend, you are being faithful to God when you care for these traveling teachers who pass through, even though they are strangers to you. They have told the church here of your loving friendship. Please continue providing for such teachers in a manner that pleases God, for they are traveling for the Lord, and they accept nothing from people who are not believers. So we ourselves should support them, so that we can be their partners as they teach the truth. Gaius is praised for his hospitality and asked to give further support to these traveling teachers. Gaius is someone John trusts. The next verse reads, I wrote to the church about this, but Diotrephes, who loves to be the leader, refuses to have anything to do with us. When I come, I will report some of the things he is doing and the evil accusations he is making against us. Not only does he refuse to welcome the traveling teachers, he also tells others not to help them. And when they do, he puts them out of the church. This little passage right here explains the issue of John's third letter. There is a battle of influence between John and Diotrephes. These traveling teachers have a connection with John, as he mentions them returning to him and giving reports of the different churches. Diotrephes has severed all connections with John, and seemingly anyone associated with him, even members of his own congregation, if they disobey him. Now, John says that he's planning on visiting this place to directly address this mutiny and attempt to restore fellowship. Something else that we can notice from this passage is that it stands to reason to assume that Gaius is not a member of Diotrephes' community. If Diotrephes is kicking out members who help the traveling teachers, then we can conclude that Gaius, who has just been praised for his hospitality towards these teachers, is not an active member. It's possible that he was a member at some point, but it's safe to say that he couldn't be a member now. John continues, My dear friend, don't let this bad example influence you. Follow only what is good. Remember that those who do good prove that they are God's children. and those who do evil prove that they do not know God. Everyone speaks highly of Demetrius, as does the truth itself. We ourselves can say the same for him, and you know we speak the truth. This letter is John's attempt to shore up support against Diotrephes. Here he directly warns Gaius to not be swayed by Diotrephes' bad influence, and he calls back to a saying that John undoubtedly told him previously. Remember that those who do good prove that they are God's children, and those who do evil prove that they do not know God. Now, in regards to Demetrius, this third person mentioned, it's possible that he is the courier who delivered this letter to Gaius, or maybe he's a traveling teacher himself. Either way, Demetrius seems to be the representative of John's authority until John arrives. John speaks highly of Demetrius and encourages Gaius to welcome him warmly. The letter ends with the expectance of arrival and the need for a personal meeting. I have much more to say, but I don't want to write it with pen and ink, for I hope to see you soon, and then we will talk face to face. Peace be with you. Your friends here send you their greetings. Please give my personal greetings to each of our friends there. This letter is a peek behind the curtain of history to find a fight for influence. John may very well have established these churches that he's writing to. By calling Gaius one of his children, it's probable. John is preparing an intervention to directly address the community himself and oppose Diotrephes face to face. Beyond spiritual matters, this is a realistic situation that happens to any movement that grows quickly. When the founder ascends into heaven and 12 to 13 officers then take possession of this growing movement, there are bound to be splinter groups that like the original ideas but distance themselves from individuals or particular beliefs that they don't like. Early church history, especially the apostolic age, was a continual fight for influence. If you read the epistles of Paul, you'll find him often defending his apostolic position and defending the teachings that he left with people. Throughout John's epistles, he constantly rebukes foreign teachings that have no place in or directly contradicts with Jesus' good news. This was the apostles' battle. Their mission? To carry the gospel of Christ into new places and defend its integrity against syncretism. Due to their efforts and the efforts of our religious forefathers who came after the apostles, we have a clear understanding of who Jesus is, what Jesus has done, and what Jesus has promised. This is due to the apostles' stewardship and careful leadership. Just the fact that we have these letters canonized into our scripture goes to show the importance of their authority and our forefathers' diligence in guarding the integrity of our faith. Thank you for joining me in this episode. I hope you have been encouraged by John's third letter and that it brings about a heartfelt appreciation for our religious forefathers. I'll catch you later.
Thank you for listening to Pickled Parables. If you enjoyed this message, please rate us, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you're interested in more things like this, check out our secondary podcast called My Dusty Bible. To stay up to date with all things Parable, follow us on Instagram at parable_ministries and visit our website at parableministries.com. Parable is a volunteer organization, and we would deeply appreciate your prayers. Thank you for joining us today. We'll catch you later.